This is my brain. A place where every idea, memory, and connection I've built can live forever. But what I didn't expect is that building it would completely transform my life. I'm currently boarding a one-way flight to Bangkok. I'm going to study in the heart of Asia. And honestly, I feel like maybe I shouldn't even be here. Just 1 year ago, I was working for minimum wage as a delivery driver, and I was neck deep into student debt. And the sole reason I managed to escape was this. This is Obsidian, a note-taking app with one simple addition, a map of everything you have ever learned. Every dot in here is a note, and every line is a connection between them. When enough of your ideas connect, they form a web of knowledge, resembling the neurons and synapses of your own brain. And at that point, it stops being just an app. It becomes a system for learning and change, or as many like to call it, So after this intro, you're probably wondering, how does a note-taking app pay off my debts and also put me on a plane to Asia? And I will get to that. I'm going to show you the exact process and walk you through the sequence of actions that took me from A to B. We'll also cover what a second brain actually is, how to build your own from scratch, and how to use it in practice. So let's start with the tool itself. Obsidian is just a note-taking app with markdown files. People use it for all kinds of things, ranging from brain dumping to writing research papers. But the most interesting use case, and the one I want to talk to you about today, is using it to build a PKM, or a personal knowledge management system. Here's the idea. Throughout your life, you're constantly consuming things. Videos, books, conversations, and most of you already write the important stuff down somewhere. Maybe in a notes app, maybe on the back of a receipt, or on a piece of paper. But what if that would change? What if you would mirror the brain and everything you learned went into the same place and connected to everything you've learned before? That's a second brain, externalizing everything you learn into one place for the rest of your life. And when you do this, 3 things start to happen. Number 1. You get an external thinking partner that remembers everything, so you don't have to. For example, I've been trying to optimize my sleep recently. Now, normally I would read a book, get excited about a few principles, and then forget most of what's there. But with this system, I just open my notes, click through the connections, and every principle I actually wanted to implement is right here, waiting for me. 2. You only learn what's actually relevant for your life. If we go over here and look at my graph view, you can see that I have hundreds of notes. But despite how many notes I wrote, I never sit down to quote-unquote study. I just read books that I'm already into, or watch YouTube videos or podcasts that I would watch anyway. The only thing I do differently is I take notes on the parts that catch my attention. This way, learning stops being a chore and rather becomes a side effect of the things that you're already interested in. 3. And this is the one that surprised me most. The notes you write start producing things you couldn't have planned for. This is a YouTube channel that I created that is currently at 2 billion views and 1.4 million subscribers. And I only post short-form content on it. I originally learned about this method from a guy called Money Mind Unfiltered on YouTube. Basically how it would work is, first you would find clips on the internet that you think had viral potential, then you would transform them into engaging edits, make sure they have a strong hook and a strong payoff. Finally, you would post them on YouTube and study the results and analytics before creating the next one. So I started doing this strategy and I would post 1 video every day. But it took me months of iteration to actually pull it off, because the method requires understanding ideas from completely different fields. And this is where Obsidian comes in. Notes I had written on completely unrelated topics suddenly came together to give me new insight. A note from a Huberman episode 2 years ago on reward prediction showed me why the first 3 seconds make or break a short. A note on feedback-based iteration from when I ran my first startup gave me a framework to keep going after my first 3 channels failed. A note on growth mindset let me detach from my videos enough to treat them as data points instead of taking the analytics personally. None of these notes were originally about YouTube, but in this new context, they helped me iterate faster and eventually get the channel monetized. And from the revenue I got from YouTube, I managed to quit my part-time job as a delivery driver, I managed to pay off my student debt, and I also enrolled in a study program that got me here today in Bali. And this is the strength of the system. Learning is the mechanism that lets you change to reach your goals. And if you're still not convinced, here are some other achievements besides YouTube that support this idea. All of the things that you see here happened in less than a year from today. So this is the first night of quitting nicotine and weed. One moment I'm cold, then I put on a hoodie or something, then I'm extra hot and start sweating and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to go to bed, meditate. So I got through the night. It was horrible. I didn't fall asleep for like, I don't know, hours. Trying meditation techniques, breathing techniques. Going to the third night right now. It's gonna be a battle to fall asleep, but hopefully. Yesterday I ran 10 kilometers, so that helped me fall asleep. Cherry tomatoes, almost a full avocado, and tortilla on the side. And none of these changes happened because I was crazy talented or smart compared to others. They happened because I had a system to learn and think with. Obsidian isn't a cheat code, it's a tool to learn from your life more effectively. You still need to put in the effort, but this tool makes your learning compound. And the whole reason this tool works so well comes down to one specific problem that no one really talks about. A problem that I want to explain somewhere else. Look at that. Hey guys. Alright. Right now I'm here in Kokud in the Bang Bao beach. An island in the south of Thailand that feels like it's straight out of a fairy tale. And right now we are headed to a waterfall, deep inside the jungle. Okay, we are almost at the waterfall. There's a problem with learning that they didn't teach you about in school. It's called the forgetting curve, and it essentially states that you forget 70% of what you have learned within the first 24 hours. But how is that exactly possible? Think about it like this. If I make you watch a movie and then ask you to write down what it was about on a blank piece of paper, you'd likely be able to tell me very specific information, like the names of the locations the characters traveled to, or even quote specific lines from the script that you found funny. However, if I let 24 hours pass between the viewing and the testing, you will only be able to recall some very general information, like the overall plot or the main character's feelings. Every other detail gets a bit blurry or downright discarded. In short, you will recall about 70% less specific information in just a day compared to the time of the viewing. And with time, this effect only gets amplified. The more time without retrieval, the more information you lose to the relentless passing of the forgetting curve. And that is because what we call learning isn't actually learning. It is just step 1 of 3 in the actual learning process. While the first 2 steps, encoding and consolidation, most of us go through naturally, the last step in the sequence often gets ignored because it is so unintuitive. But in fact, this is where the majority of the retention we lose from that 70% lies. Deliberately sitting down and writing about what you have just learned forces your brain to retrieve information related to that topic. And the more often you do it, the stronger your retention gets. This is the mechanism that makes Obsidian so potent as a learning tool. It is the act of retrieval and the writing of interconnected concepts and notes that allows you to remember more than others. But here's the thing. I didn't come up with this. A far smarter person figured this out all the way back in the 1900s, and his name was Luhmann. The thing about this guy is that you could call him a productivity machine. Over his lifetime, he wrote over 70 books and hundreds of articles. And when they asked him about his immense productivity, he answered this way.
Of course, I do not think of all this on my own. It mostly happens in my file. In essence, the filing system explains my productivity.
And here's the way Luhmann would do it. He took notes on paper. That's why we call it slipbox, or in German Zettelkasten, because he had a little slipbox that he would store all his notes in. And just like in Obsidian, the position of these notes was entirely determined by how they connect to other ones. And he had 3 types of notes: fleeting notes, literature notes, and main notes. The purpose of the fleeting note is to capture an idea when it arises. Whenever you read something that piques your curiosity and you want to dive deeper, you can just jot down a note. He would treat these types of notes as raw material that he would later transform into main notes. The second type of note is the literature note. Whenever he would have a conversation with someone or read something, he always wrote down some notes that came from that topic. So later, when he would revisit those ideas, he would have the sources and the context that it was in. And the third type is the main note. Now, this is the meat of your second brain. The literature notes and fleeting notes are both only there to support these. Luhmann would go over his literature notes and would list out everything that can be applied to other concepts, connected or debated with another idea. He also took these notes on little cards. That way, he had to be concise with his words and only write one key principle per idea. He always wrote these notes in his own words without looking at the literature notes. When he sat down to write those 70 books, he didn't start from scratch. He would essentially have this whole framework for this book ready for proofreading. He just had to connect the dots in different patterns.
The filing system explains my productivity.
The way he did it was with pen and paper offline. Nowadays we have the luxury to create this system entirely digitally. So before we go deeper, let's set it up for you in just a few minutes. I got this set up from one of my favorite creators in YouTube, and I will mention him later again. It is simple and minimalistic. If you want to skip this for now, you can click on the timestamp you see on the screen and revisit this section whenever you need. First, download Obsidian, open it and create a new vault. This will store everything locally on your device. If you want to access it from your phone, alternatively you can select iCloud or OneDrive or any other cloud service you want to store the files and open them from your phone as well. Once you're in, you'll be greeted by your first note and the graph view. You can feel free to ignore this, and now you can just go to the top left of the screen to create a new folder. When building our structure, we use the exact same system Luhmann used. So first, let's create your fleeting notes folder. In my vault, this is where my to-do list, journal, and current habits live, alongside random ideas that pop into my head. Since this folder's purpose is to capture ideas you'll explore later, don't worry about making the notes pretty. They are only placeholders until you have the time to turn them into a main note. Let's try it out by pulling the example note into the fleeting folder, clicking the drop-down, and typing something in it. If that works, great. So far so good. Next, let's create 2 more folders. One for your source notes and one for your main notes. Let's start with source notes. Whenever you read a book or watch a video that you find valuable, you can create a file here by clicking and selecting Create New File. When you consume the source, don't try to write down every single idea. Try to select only the ones that are relevant to your life or genuinely spark your interest. When you find one, put down the book and describe what you've learned in your own words without looking at the source. The goal here is not to create a transcription. AI can do that for you in seconds. The goal is to stimulate your own thinking by introducing a new idea to the slipbox. Use quick timestamps or page numbers to signal where you found the idea, so you can go back and revisit it later if needed. Here's an example of a note I took from a book called Ikigai. What you can see is a timestamp, an idea, and sometimes my own remarks on it. In the source note, you want to capture the concept within the context it was presented, as accurately as possible. Take this example right here. As I was reading this book, I came across this section on page 97 that explains how modern culture misuses the word multitasking. It clarifies that originally it was a term used only in computer science, where multiple programs run in parallel. But over time, we started using it to ourselves, unaware of the fact that unlike computers, if we try to carry out multiple tasks at the same time, our performance will actually drop in both. When I read this, I found this idea fascinating, so I wrote it down into the source note. After I finished the book, I decided that this one idea is so important to me that I want to integrate it into my own knowledge base. So later on, I wrote a separate, context-independent main note about it. Here, I go more in detail. I also add links to other concepts that this one relates to. Here at the bottom, I even cite the title of my source note, where it originally came from, which in this case is the title of the book I was reading. A single book can spark many independent ideas. Now, if I scroll down, then click the top right corner, and select backlinks in document, you can see that this one book sparked over 19 individual ideas that I've already turned into main notes. So this is what we're going to do next. Once you're satisfied with your source note, go over to the left to your main notes section and open a new window by dragging it or clicking and selecting Open to the right. Then skim through the source note until you find an idea valuable enough to become a permanent building block of your thinking. Now, in your source note, you're captioning an idea as it was presented. But in your main note, you try to make it yours, writing it as if the source file never existed. Your goal is to find context-independent, general insight. Once again, use your own words and restrict yourself to one idea per note. For example, a note called Best Ways to Live Longer would not be a good main note. It is not a clearly defined thought. It might work as an essay later on when you have the main notes to draw from, but right now we need the individual building blocks. So if you're reading about longevity, something like Serving Food on Small Plates Makes You Eat Less is a much better title. It is clear, concise, and specific. Small plates make you eat less, therefore your body goes through less oxidative stress, which can significantly extend your lifespan. By restricting yourself to one idea only, will later allow you to build those beautiful chains of reasoning that you can skim through, like swinging from branch to branch or like browsing through Wikipedia. This process is not supposed to be easy. It should feel like friction that you have to work through. When you write a main note, you should ask yourself difficult questions, like how does this relate to other notes I already have? How can I apply this in my real life? And are there any ideas that question or contradict this? This friction is where actual learning happens, and it gives you a deeper understanding of what you're writing about. Once you're done with the main note, go to the bottom, type a hashtag and a space, followed by source. Then link your source note by typing 2 square brackets, and the name of the file will automatically pop up for you to select. If you now click on that source note and scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see this main note appearing in the backlinks. So you can navigate between the idea and its source seamlessly. You can use these double square brackets to link other main notes to your already existing main note, building an interconnected jungle of ideas. And by going to the top and typing hashtag followed by a word with no space, you can create tags to filter by later. To keep things clear, I recommend 0 to 3 hashtags per note. Otherwise, it gets messy fast. And that's all you need to know about main notes. But there are a couple of other tricks that make using Obsidian even more seamless. To avoid retyping the title, hashtags, and source section every time, you can create templates for any kind of note you'd like. Go to the top left, create a new folder and name it Templates. Then create a new note inside it. Name that note Main Note Template and copy what you see on my screen. You can also find this in the video description if that's easier. Then go to the settings in the bottom left, go all the way down to Templates and select the folder you just made. Still inside settings, go to hotkeys and search Insert Template. Bind it to Command T on Mac or Control T on Windows. If it shows a conflict with another shortcut, scroll down until you find it and click the little X next to it to unbind it. While you're still in the settings, go to Files and Links here and change the default location for new notes. Change this to your main notes folder. Now every new note you create will land in the right place automatically. Now you can close settings and test it. Press Command N or Control N to create a new note and name it Test Note. Then paste in your new template with your Command T on Mac or Control T on Windows. Congrats, you are done with the setup. Use Command O or Control O to search for any existing note inside your vault or to create a new one. If you press it, a little window will come up where you can type the title you want, and if a similar note already exists, it will show up automatically. This saves you from writing the same idea twice. Now, something to watch out for, and this happened to me too, is that once you start writing notes, the lack of structure will feel like you're making a mess. You will feel the urge to create a new folder and just organize everything by topic. But don't do it. That is just your perfectionist self-talking, and it will only overcomplicate things down the line. The strength of this system lies in its simplicity. And navigation here happens through links and tags, which of course takes some getting used to, but that is kind of the whole point. Like this creator explains it in his video about Obsidian.
Your network of notes only gets stronger with time, and you can't say the same for a system of folders, because the more you add, the more messy and confusing it gets. This is the exact opposite. In this system, they're all in one arena. They're all free to mingle and to connect. Insights from Socrates, Dante, and the Bible can connect with those from maybe Virginia Woolf or Nietzsche. Every new book, video, and article you read can add something valuable to the conversation, something that can form these exciting connections that you never saw coming.
And he's right. As weird as it sounds, not sorting my notes by topics was one of the best things I did to gain a deeper understanding into the world around me. I originally also learned about this tool from his video, and all the credit goes to him for teaching the method. So definitely check out his channel. The link will be in the description. And that's essentially it. Your system is complete and ready to take on for a lifetime of learning. Even after 2 years, I use the exact same setup. The only things I've added to it are an optional projects folder to work on things like scripts and video ideas, a files folder where I literally just have random PNGs that I dragged in over time, and an AI folder to clearly separate my own thinking from what AI generates for me. And I want to be completely clear that all of these additions are completely optional. The system is fully functional without them. But if you're curious, here is what I've been experimenting with. Combining Obsidian with agentic AI tools such as Cloud Code. These tools can access your local files and are excellent at reading Markdown. If you point one at your Vault, you can give your second brain a voice and literally talk to it in real time. And if you know anything about AI, is that it thrives on context. So a Vault built over years of your own thinking becomes an incredibly powerful foundation. For example, you can ask it to write an article in your own words by pulling together related ideas from your Vault. The possibilities are genuinely infinite, but just make sure that you restrict what it can write to a clearly defined folder. Otherwise, the AI-generated content might end up taking over your own thinking, and obviously we don't want that. Mine is set up so it can read anything in my Vault, but to write or modify anything, I have to physically drag the file into the AI folder first. But here's the one thing AI will never do for you. Actually understand the ideas. It is just pattern matching against billions of other people's words. It doesn't know what you mean. Real understanding cannot be outsourced. It has to be earned manually, by you. And the way you earn it is through 3 learning principles: retrieval practice, spaced repetition, and interleaving. Number 1. Retrieval practice. In science, it was shown time and time again that you're more effective at learning if you only read the textbook once, generate your own answers, aka test yourself on it, and then check if you wrote something incorrect or left anything out. In this particular study, they found that students who test themselves retain about 50% more information as opposed to those who just reread the material over and over again. Furthermore, the act of writing gives you insight into your understanding, because if you don't understand something, you won't be able to explain it properly. And this is why Luhmann also never copied from literature, because it would ruin his understanding. He would be a copying machine, not someone who understands the ideas and is able to apply them. The second one is spaced repetition. This is exactly what I talked about in the beginning, the forgetting curve. To retain anything, you must interrupt the natural process of forgetting that occurs over time. While this sounds insane, it applies to all of us. Normally, this would require you to set reminders, to sit down, test yourself every week or so, but in the slip box, because you connect every new idea to an old one, you're essentially forced to retrieve that information again, to find the relationships between the ideas. Therefore, spacing will occur naturally through your own process of thinking. Which brings me to my final topic, interleaving. The whole point of the slip box is to have all your ideas in one place and find connections that you would otherwise never have found. Over time, this type of note-taking becomes a way of life. No matter where you are or what you're doing, there are always certain things that you're gonna learn. Maybe from a conversation, maybe from a video, or maybe from meeting a stranger on the island of Kokut. Oh, lawyer.
No, my daughter is a lawyer.
I'm Benny.
Benny? Cool, man. I'm gonna make some videos and try and fuck off.
Yeah.
I'll get crazy.
Yeah. I like to think about life as a sandbox game, where we have no inherent meaning, but we are free to discover what makes us happy and what gives us a purpose. So, whatever that may be for you, I think it all starts with learning how to learn. Because learning is a tool that allows you to unlock every other skill in this life. And the 3 key concepts I just discussed, spacing, interleaving, and retrieval, they all stand for this one thing: making learning more difficult. There is this concept in science called desirable difficulties. The more effort you exert by dissecting topics, the greater you will retain that information. Watching a YouTube video increases your understanding of the topic, but it doesn't make you apply it in your real life. Interleaving those topics gets you a better understanding, and when you generate your own answers, space out your repetitions throughout time, you'll gain a nuanced understanding that a lot of people miss out on. And if life truly is a sandbox game, I think we all deserve a slip box as a roadmap to it. If this video gave you any value, please subscribe or join the community down below. It's the best way to support me. I'm grateful for your attention.